Trump is not winning the tariff war. There was an article recently in the New York Times that says Trump's vision for world trade is being realized. It's not quite clear what Trump's vision is, and if there is a vision at all, it's unlikely that it's being realized. If you recall, back in April 2024, Trump had his Liberation Day, I think it was 2nd of April, when he announced these big tariffs on many other countries, particularly China. But then a few months later, he backed off because what happened was investors' faith in the US system was shaken. They started selling off US government bonds. And as a result, those bond prices fell. And what that means is the interest rates that you must pay on those bonds went up dramatically. This is not to mention the fact that the US Supreme Court recently ruled that these tariffs are illegal. It's not clear what that means. In the meantime, the euro has been gaining where the US dollar slides. And while the euro is probably not going to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency anytime soon, that prospect has certainly improved. Investors are certainly looking more favorably at Europe. Given the uncertain investment atmosphere in the US, this is not good news for long-term US productivity or prosperity. At the same time, other countries are gradually putting together their own regional groups. There are now 10 members of BRICS. It started with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. That's why it calls BRICS, BRICS. Indonesia became a full member in early 2025. There are now 8 other countries that are on track to become a full member. This group represents roughly half of the global population and 41% of the world's gross output in purchasing power terms. This group of countries constitutes an economic powerhouse with top producers of key commodities like oil, gas, grains, meat, and minerals. Recently, Thomas Friedman, a columnist for the New York Times, said that he just saw the future and it was not in America. He went on to talk about the huge campus consisting of more than 100 individually designed buildings built by Huawei in Shanghai, following sanctions imposed on Huawei by the US amid national security concerns. Among other things, Huawei has now produced the world's first triple folding smartphone and created its own mobile operating system called Hongmeng, Harmony, to compete with Apple's iOS and Google's Android. So remember, for mobile phones, we used to have only 2 systems. All iPhones run on iOS, and all Android phones run on the Google's Android system. So Huawei has now come up with a third system. We'll see how that goes. So Tom Friedman quotes a US citizen doing business in China for decades. And this person says, there was a time when people came to America to see the future. Now they come here, meaning China. And this is not really great news because even if China is successful, the Chinese success in some senses means that you don't really need democracy in order to be economically successful, that there is no such thing called democratic dividend. And this is problematic. If the United States loses its economic hegemony, then it's also possible that people will start to think, oh, maybe we don't need democracy after all. So on a large number of areas, many of these things are problematic and worrying. But that's a different topic for a different day.